This Friday marks the 187th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence of New Zealand. Friday also commemorates Te Pūtake o Te Riri, a commemoration day of the New Zealand Wars after a petition from Ōtorohanga students was presented to the government in 2015. The following takes us to the third episode in our series Te Aho. This episode looks into the significance of Te Pūtake o Te Riri and what the 29th of October means in our past, the present and our future.
It's important to understand the context to which why our tupuna went to war with the Crown. And of course we saw it play out at places like Ruapekapeka, Ōrākau and so many other places around the country.
The signing of Te Tiriti in 1840, for a long period of time after that, many Māori communities continued to manage their own affairs as they always had. And it's really only in the main sequence of the New Zealand Wars through the 1860s that that begins to change, and the Crown's assertions of sovereignty, of unbridled authority, become a reality, and that has almost immediate consequences for Māori. For one thing, you get the Native Land Court established in 1865. 2 years later, you get the native school system established. One strips Māori of their land, the other of their language, and we still live the consequences of that today in many ways.
The wars were a physical manifestation of what the chiefs had intended, that mana motuhake would always remain in the hands of the tangata whenua. It is their expression of exclusively their inherent and inalienable rights to sovereignty, to self-determination.
It's important that we continue as an ongoing conversation. Te Pūtake o Te Riri isn't just celebrated, it's actually explored to understand the rationale of our ancestors, but more importantly, or just as importantly, to understand the role of each ancestor in those battles. It's easy to talk about te ruki kawiti for te Ruapekapeka, but that ignores others like Te Aho, who fought at Ruapekapeka and sadly died, or other of our ancestors. So that's why Te Pūtake o Te Riri is just as important now as it was back then.
Prior to the 1860s, Māori communities had a thriving economy which was destroyed almost literally overnight. And that's not something that those communities recover from easily. The legacy of that continues through to today, including the effects of Raupatu as well.
You saw a intergenerational suffering, mobilisation, forced relocation of tribes from their ancestral heritage and lands. Through that process of colonisation, we saw, of course, the breakdown of the language, customs and usages of our people. So the implications were significantly economic, but equally significantly social and spiritual as well.
I think it's really important that we engage with our history in order to understand, have a sense of where we've come from. Will help us to work out where we're going in the future. But also I think, over the last 3 or 4 decades, we've had this massive treaty settlements process between Māori and the Crown, and other New Zealanders haven't been part of those conversations, and often they've had no idea of the history behind those claims. As we look to the future, we need a sort of broader-based process of reconciliation and healing. And that can really only happen with understanding and dialogue about our shared past. What we do know is that treaty settlements return a fraction of what was lost. It's typically 1 to 2% of the value of those lands that were lost. So, people who think Māori are getting rich from treaty settlements, in fact, they're signing away 98, 99% of everything they lost in those settlements.
I think Te Pūtake o Te Riri and these conversations are important. It helps us talk about these things, to understand them a bit more. And only through time and future generations, I think, will there be an opportunity for our tamariki and mokopuna to live in a world without carrying the burdens and the mamae of the past.
I think to be good citizens of Aotearoa, you must understand and appreciate its history for what it was. And in doing that, you become more informed, not only of the now, but you're able to inform your own children and grandchildren, which is about the legacy in the future. And until the great part of our nation's memory is clarified through facts and through knowledge and wisdom, our country is yet to mature. We've got a long way to go.